Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PP&M Chief Technology Officer and Executive Vice President, Charles Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PP&M Executive Vice President of Business Development and Marketing, Patrick Holcomb.
Hey, ready? Hey, we're excited to talk to you guys today. Charles and I have been working together for years now, as you probably know. And I get the fun part of the job to look out at the market and look for different business opportunities for us to apply our technology. As Charles will tell you, I usually come to him with ideas along with a suggested estimate that's usually in the range of 1 or 2 weekends in COBOL.
Yeah, and by the way, we're looking for some good developers that don't just use COBOL like Patrick does from the past, with some real estimates of what it really takes to do this great stuff.
We've got some great stuff to show you, and none of it is written in COBOL, I assure you of that. Charles has seen to that. But we've been working on the last year, and we can't wait to tell you about some of the things we've been doing.
Yeah, there are many different areas we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at some of the acquisitions that we've made and how that technology can be leveraged in our environment. We're excited about many of the different things that we're doing that relate to what Patrick and Gerhard and the rest of the panel talked about earlier with rules in our 3D environment, in our instrumentation, and in all of the other areas. You'll see how this is applied to make you more productive and provide a safer environment. First thing that I'd like to talk about is the acquisition that we made at the end of last year of a company in Germany. This company is called Sigraph. We looked around for a solution. We looked at whether we should build or whether we should buy, because many of you asked us for the capability to do detailed engineering in the electrical space. And that detailed design is today just done with AutoCAD or MicroStation, and it's a CAD function. Well, in our data-centric world, that doesn't fit very well, and we felt that there was a need to integrate this detailed capability with what we already had in SmartPlant Electrical for basic electrical design, and to tie that into our overall enterprise. So we found this company in Germany with a group of incredible people with great expertise through the years in electrical engineering and in this space. We went and we met with them. The culture of this group just fit perfectly. They're customer-centric, customer-focused, and so we're really excited at what they bring to our portfolio. Let me show you an example now of their product. This is called Sigraph CAE. It is a Windows-based product, and it's data-centric, so it fits very well into our look and feel and our way of approaching the problem. It's a detailed environment that shows you not only the schematic layout, but also the physical layout. You can see where the panels are located. You can go in and look at each of the racks and go onto those particular components, and everything is linked together. And so this data is linked so that you can go down to this particular relay and right-click on it, and then find all of the data that's related to that, or other drawings and documents, and see where it's physically located in space. And so this has become a very, very efficient and effective way for people to lay out the physical and detailed design of the schematic of the electrical layout. And we found that that this again fits very well with our approach. It ties in with the schematics that are done. So today you can do a single line diagram in SmartPlant Electrical. You can also do the single line power layout with the power requirements that came from PNID. Here you see that we have the single line on the left, but we also have a detailed 3-wire diagram on the right. And it's data driven. You would recognize the area at the bottom, which is very much like our data editor and the grid that we have in our other schematic applications. And when you make one change to a parameter, that is automatically reflected throughout the whole system. Very, very similar to what we're doing with our other applications. Our next step is to take this capability and add it to our schematic suite, to our electrical suite, and have these working together for you in the future. Another thing that I'd like to make a point of is that we will take, in our design decisions on how we integrate these together, the upgrade and preservation of your data is a key thing that we do moving forward.
Now, another acquisition that we did, this one closed in January, was of Coade. Coade's got some great products. Caesar, most notably Caesar 2, that's probably the one that most of you are aware of. But they also have PV Elite for pressure vessel analysis, Tank for tank design and analysis, and then a great CAD design product for AutoCAD-based engineering. I'd been talking with Tom Van Lan, who was the president and CEO of Coade for years, and trying to convince Tom as to how we could get some more investment into the integration. And I suppose, long story short, we finally just had to buy the company to get it done. They've got some great technology, and it's used in a lot of different places. One of the things that the team has been working on most recently in Caesar 2 is pretty interesting, is how they can begin to automate some of the engineering analysis decisions. Let me show you how that works. Now, if you look at the video behind me, you'll see a relatively small model. This was actually done in CADWorx, and you see that a designer is now working with Caesar 2 there. The pipe stress analysis designer is going through, and they're choosing all of the basic options for, in this case, an expansion loop. So they're going to choose the type of the expansion loop. They've already got their cost factors built in for the different kinds of piping fabrication. They're going to allocate a basic loop expansion space that Caesar 2 can use for creating that loop. Now what Caesar 2 is doing, and this is the new part, what you see here, is it's iterating through multiple different designs. In the past, most pipe stress analysis applications, they had to keep pushing the button and keep trying different designs until they optimize cost versus the engineering rules. Caesar 2 will now do that for them automatically. So it ran through several iterations, and it found the most cost-effective loop design for this case that also satisfies all the engineering rules. Now, so we've had, as you guys have known, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with Caesar 2, it's been phenomenally popular with many clients. The integration with CADWorx has also been very popular. In fact, the first thing that we started working on as soon as we owned the company, after we got the basic G&A integration done, was to begin enhancing our two-way integration with Smart 3D in Caesar 2. And you'll see that coming up in the next year or so. You'll see us start working on that. The other thing I'd like to point out is CADWorx. CADWorx is a spectacular application. It's really ideal for people who are working in AutoCAD on smaller plant design projects today. By some estimates, there are some 500,000 seats of AutoCAD out there today. So you may think that everybody uses big data-centric applications. The truth is, there are a lot of designers out there designing plants with plain old AutoCAD. And as I think everybody here knows, that's not the most efficient way to do things. CADWorx is a great way for those people to begin stepping into real 3D design. And as a result of the continued success that we expect from CADWorx, we're working on integration with CADWorx and Smart 3D. We think CADWorx is an ideal tool for subcontractors or perhaps people who make skids or certain smaller assemblies within plants, that they can continue to work on a simpler system like a CADWorx based on AutoCAD, and then we can bring that into Smart 3D for the large mega projects. And that's another item that you'll be seeing from us in the upcoming future. If you'd like to see more about CADWorx, it's actually out on the exhibit floor, or you can also always come to CADWorx University, which is a little bit later this year in Houston. We'll probably have 600 or 700 CADWorx users come there, and I look forward to seeing you there if you do.
As the CTO, one of the things that I have the pleasure of doing is keeping up with all the changes that the infrastructure underneath us continues to provide. It's always a challenge. Every year or two, there's a major release of an operating system or of a database, or there's a revolution like we've seen in virtualization over the last couple of years. And so we have been keeping up with what Microsoft, Oracle, Citrix, and others have been doing. This year, we've gone through the full certification of our suite of applications on Windows 7. This has gone very, very well. Our applications run better, cleaner, faster on Windows 7 because it's a more stable environment than many of the previous ones. We're pretty excited about the possibilities of taking advantage of more memory and all of the different advantages that you have in this Windows 7 environment. We've already certified most of our products on Windows 7. Many of them just worked already. And all of them will be certified by January of next year. So you can be confident that as you deploy your infrastructure within your company, that we'll be right there with you, that we'll be supporting the latest versions of Windows 7, of Oracle, of SQL Server, and all of the different dependencies that we have from our applications. We also are working, as I said, with many of you on virtualization and on taking advantage of Citrix and other capabilities for distributing your work around the world. There are many, many things that are done directly out of the operating system and out of these tools that allow you to take our applications and distribute them at a lower cost to you, a lower cost of ownership without many areas of problems, as Patrick said earlier. We also continue to support global workshare in our 3D environment, and that will continue to be a very effective and efficient way for you to share your work around in different parts of the globe.
One of the things that the teams have been working on really hard over the last few years is to really improve our drawing extraction and automation capability. It started really with the creation by Charles's team over several years and about $150 million to create an intelligent, data-centric, rules-driven 3D engine. But as all of you know, in today's world, you still have to get drawings out at the end, particularly when going into construction and many other situations. What we wanted is we wanted to have a very high level of automation for that. Now, we then did an acquisition out of Korea 2 years ago, a company called TechServer, and they have a product called eDraw, which also makes the ortho drawings. It was an ortho drawing extraction system built for PDS. Once we acquired that technology, we've done two things. One, we've bundled the eDraw technology in with PDS, so the latest version of PDS includes eDraw, or now PDS OrthoDraw. And the other thing we did is we used some of the intellectual property and technology for the 3D drawings extraction engine. Let me show you a little bit about that. What happens within Smart 3D, because it's a data-centric 3D modeling system, is you've got very rich amounts of data. And so the drawing extraction process is a little bit different. What a user does is they simply identify volumes of the plant for whatever reason, whether they want to have unit isolation or area isolation or elevation isolations. They just identify the different areas or categories or boxes, if you will, and name the type of drawing they want out of each box. Those boxes could be overlapping or not. The Smart 3D drawing extraction engine will then not only extract drawings and do a lot of the annotation and labeling, but it also maintains version control. You can see green check boxes there. So it lets people know if the drawings that have been extracted are currently synchronized with the model, or if there's been a change in the model that needs to be looked at before those drawings are used. Now, once those are extracted, we're using the technology such as the eDraw technology I mentioned to do automated labeling, annotation, and dimensioning. I think you guys are familiar with Isogen, which is a near 99-point-something% automation and complete. The Smart 3D drawings engine now is the same for many of the ortho and plan drawings. So they're near 90 or 95% complete without any touch-up. And that's a valuable piece of productivity for you. And as we talked about before, it also has a quality and safety impact. By doing this kind of system, we've reduced the risk that out-of-date drawings get out uncontrolled into the field for construction. Now designers have very good control over the versions of the drawing, and they can see that even though they've got a high degree of automation.
One of the things that we've done in the drawings area is to provide a lot of content and a rules engine that allows you to customize it to exactly what you need to produce the outputs that you need for your deliverables. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years in providing those. We've also spent a lot of time in providing other content, reference data, symbols, and things that you need to be very quick in getting a project up and going, and allowing those to adhere to the local standards that you have in your area of the world, or for your company standards. And so we've taken a full team and we've dedicated these people to providing all of these symbols. These are not just static symbols, but these are also parametric and they're data-driven. And they have rules behind them so that they can react to the environment that they're in. So you can have one symbol that can be used in a different case, in a different standard, but automatically morph into the right configuration just by changing one parameter. This takes a lot of time and effort, and we're trying to take that away from you on the front line of the project, providing those on the back end so that they can be ready to rock and roll as soon as you're getting going on the project. Just by contrast, in PDS, we deliver 42 pieces of equipment. In Smart 3D today, we already deliver over 300. We provide over 1,800 symbols in the piping and instrumentation area. And we're continuing to add to those constantly and consistently as we move forward and work with you on real-life projects in each of the disciplines and areas that you need us to.
Smart plant instrumentation has made a lot of advances. As our colleagues out in Israel or in Germany remind me, it's not all about 3D. 2D is also an application that many people use. And they've been working very hard to address some desires that you had as a client base. Version 2009 Service Pack 1 is available now. Tremendous amount of work went into this. One of the things that we heard very bluntly was you guys wanted to see a better upgrade path, and so they worked very hard on that, and I hope that when we run our client satisfaction surveys that we can go from a 4.1 to maybe a 4.2 as a result of making those changes for you guys. I look forward to hearing your feedback, even personally, on the upgrade experience that you're seeing, because we expect it to be better than the past. We've addressed many user-requested items, most notably over 90 new data sheets with embedded intelligence. This had been requested for some time, and so all the data sheets have been updated. And then finally, the Smart Plant Instrumentation has started to take a step into rules-driven design, just like you've seen in 3D design, only in this case it's in instrumentation logic. Let me show you a little how that works. What happens with the design of instrumentation, and I'll explain a little for those of you that are not familiar with it. What you're seeing on the screen is an example of a designer who's creating a thermocouple. Now there are different types of thermocouples for different performance criteria. This one is called a Type K. Because of the way thermocouples work, the differential electronic current voltage, you have to make sure that the compensation cable attached to that thermocouple is the same type. And it's a very common field error to get those misplaced, or a common design error. What they've done here with Smart Plant Instrumentation is write a rule checker to go and make sure that all compensation cables match all thermocouples. So in this case it goes and it will check for the designer and alert the designer if there's a thermocouple that is not appropriately matched with a compensation cable. So that's another example of safety and quality. In addition to that, this also goes and looks and compares the classification of the equipment the thermocouple is attached to with the thermocouple itself. So if it's an intrinsically safe piece of equipment, that means that it has to be an intrinsically safe rated thermocouple. That's another design rule checker that we can run in the background, so you get better productivity because you don't have to do that manually. You've really improved quality because I think that a computer is better at doing that than a human, and we've improved safety because we've started to eliminate those little safety slips that can slip in. A thermocouple that's done inappropriately can provide incorrect readings or perhaps even be a source of ignition in some situations.
I'm pretty excited about what we're able to provide in the visualization area. As you've seen with the Golden Valve winners, it's just incredible what you guys do with the technology that we provide you. We've made some significant advances over the last 2 years in the performance and the usability of these tools. We've taken a page right out of the game player's work. My 16-year-old son was in the usability test of our products, and he was able to just quickly and easily fly through. He was just looking for the gun to make sure he could shoot something, but probably doesn't fit very well with our safety focus that we're having. But we've actually taken that look and feel from Google, where you have very nice and easy icons on the screen that you can navigate through and walk through. Or if you want to be a lot more productive and interactive, you can use your mouse and keyboards to fly through the model. We've provided a lot more capabilities in these tools than we have in the past and made them a lot easier. Last year we provided this in Smart Plant, Smart Marine 3D, and in Smart Plant Foundation. So the same consistent user interface is in all three of those. And now we're introducing it in Smart Plant Review, version 2010, which will be available later this month. Let me show you some examples of how this works in Smart Plant Review. Now this model is an FPSO from Petrobras, and they gave us the rights to actually deliver this example with our applications, which is kind of cool. But here we're flying through the model. We're able to focus in on a particular component, and just by clicking down and holding on the mouse, you can just orbit easily and rotate around the component that you're interested in. You can hit the home button and go directly out to a default location. One of the things that we've done to make it much easier and more efficient is to have this slider where you can change and focus between the quality of what you see or the speed of what you're seeing. So if you're on a high performance machine, you can have it cranked all the way over to quality and you fly through in real time in this very, very beautiful rendered environment. But if you have it over on the fast mode, you can do it on a little laptop and still do it with a very, very large model and fly through in interactive mode. What you're seeing here is also a capability that we've provided to clip down the portion of the model that you're looking on. In a very efficient and easy way, you can clip out to just the portion you care on, and you can extend that back and move it out to focus in and see exactly what you'd like. You can navigate around in that. You can go to the non-graphic information that's either in Smart Plant Review or that's in Smart Plant Foundation. And so it brings all this information together for you to do design reviews and design checks and engineering checks in a 3D and in a visually appealing environment for you and for your customer. We're really pleased and excited with what we've provided here. We've added some new capabilities in Smart Plant Review to export to 3D PDF, to have these dynamic zoom to capabilities, and many, many others that you'll see as you take the new version later this month.
Now, Charles, I have to ask on behalf of the audience. I know you've already done this in Smart Plant Foundation. You've put the View Control in, and you've done it in Smart Plant Construction. When can we have it in Smart Plant Review?
That would be later this month.
Excellent. All right. Next, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Smart Plant Construction. We've been working over the last year in Smart Plant Construction to really create a tool that's designed to facilitate lean construction. So planning the work in detail, only planning what needs to be done, and keeping people busier. We had seen many analysis that showed that there was as much as 30% standing and stand around and wait time in most construction projects. And I believe if you look at any statistics, you'll see that this range is pretty uniform. Somewhere between 25 and 40% of construction time are people simply standing around. So the solution to that is better planning and management. And that's what Smart Plant Construction is designed for. Let me show you just a little bit about how Smart Plant Construction can do that. What you'll see behind me is the Smart Plant Construction interface. Now you'll also notice we've made some big changes in the user experience here. It's very big buttons. A simplified user interface doesn't look like a CAD design tool at all. And that's on purpose because we know that construction planners are a different type of user than, for example, a CAD designer. And so we wanted to make this attractive for them. Smart Plant Construction allows a construction planner to use a 3D visual perspective of the plant to begin putting together the detailed team work packages that you would give to a field foreman to execute along with a team of technical specialists. Now, they're using actually updated information that's integrated either with PDS or with Smart Plant 3D and with Smart Plant Materials and with basic drawings that can be imported from anywhere and with Primavera. So we've really started to create a central intelligence for construction planning and also dynamic replanning. With a system like this, it becomes very simple and straightforward when things happen on projects, which they always do, to begin changing plans, moving the timing around on specific work packages or creating new or different work packages based on changes in materials availability. As you can see here, the 3D view control that Charles was showing has already been integrated with Smart Plant Construction with the exact same user experience so that it begins to look common across your organization and people start to feel more familiar with these tools and really less alienated, because we thought that construction planners in particular would feel alienated by some older CAD look and feel technology. So we made a lot of effort to improve that. Now, one of the things that's also happening on the research side that impacts Smart Plant Construction is Charles is doing a lot of research in mobile devices, because we know that mobile devices are important not only for construction but also for many other design and operations and maintenance activities that are happening.
Yeah, so in the last quarter alone, over 65 million of these smart devices have been sold. That's 50% higher than it was last year at this time in that same 3-month period. So we're looking at this trend to see how we can leverage this and how we can make our tools and our data available for you anywhere, anytime that you need it. We've looked at how we can do this by making our web portals more portable. It's not intuitively obvious that a mouse quickly becomes a finger. That's a little bit bigger for those in the user experience world. And so we've had to tune our user interface and our web portals so that they would work in that environment. It's really pretty exciting to know that you can take this data with you wherever you need to go. And in these devices, you also have a lot of sensors. And you can plug in other sensors. So you can have RFID, you can have cameras, you can have the GPS so you know where you are. Imagine what the possibilities are when you tie all of those sensors and that real-time information with all the data that we have in the SmartPlant Enterprise. We've also looked at doing, and we have prototypes of native iPad applications. There have been millions of those sold to date. We're looking at the other operating systems and how we can work with the Citrix environment so that almost anything that you have in our environment can be displayed and pulled to wherever you need them. Now, a word of caution, this is not an intrinsically safe environment with the iPad or the iPhone or your Android. So we're really monitoring that and working with the leaders in the industry to see who's going to come out with an intrinsically safe device, perhaps based on Windows 7 or on one of these other operating systems that we can leverage and take advantage of in your hazardous environments.
Now, everybody has seen the internet at work with their own personal transactions. I'm sure that every single one of you has used your credit card to buy something from Amazon or from Barnes & Noble or eBay or many other retail sites out in the world. However, we've not really started to leverage that level of transaction efficiency and communication efficiency within our industry, within plain old materials management and subcontractor management, until now. We've been working very closely with CH2M Hill, who is currently in production with the newest release of SmartPlant Materials, which has subcontractor management module, which is a web-enabled system. What it does is, through the web, CH2M Hill can interact with their subcontractors and suppliers. This has a lot of advantages because it gives them a much more standardized way of interacting. They get to capture data on those transactions and performance history over time on how satisfied they were, and it also lowers cost and improves accuracy of those communications. Let me show you just a little bit about it. It starts with the basics of supplier qualification. Now, it's always much better if you can have suppliers do this online rather than standing in line in the manual approach. It's a workflow-driven system, and as a result of that, it's very quick and it's lower cost compared to what we've usually seen. We did see at first, we saw some suppliers struggle with this. Some may not be very high-tech, but it's simple enough that very quickly, with a little bit of phone support, suppliers and subcontractors were able to use this effectively. This gives CH2M Hill a very good database of suppliers and current supplier data, and it's available globally for them, not just at a single office or in a single file cabinet, but this is a real online system. Now, this system is delivered with SmartPlant Materials, so that if you have the current version, you actually have access to this module today. It incorporates the basics such as email notifications, because we're all very reliant on emails to do a lot of the business that we're in, and so we've used that here. Once a supplier has been qualified, the system will also manage RFQ through award. So CH2M Hill can now have a standard, transparent, and fair process with those suppliers as they're going through the process. Once something's been awarded, we can also handle progress and schedule a value and payments to control payments. Many times this can be very difficult or complicated within a procurement action, or sometimes it's very inconsistent between different projects. This has brought them tremendous consistency, and with less people they can administer more procurement, and it's deeply integrated with SmartPlant Materials because it's actually built on top of the same database. There is no second application. It's actually part of SmartPlant Materials.
One of the areas that was talked about in the earlier keynote was, how do we keep track of the change? How do we manage the changes that are happening late in the cycle or throughout the cycle of an engineering process? Well, we've taken this really seriously. We've worked with many of you on what your need is, both in the tools, in the design tools, and in the information management system of keeping track of that change and processing that change through these tools. So we provided in SmartPlant for owner-operators and this project execution module the ability to keep track of changes, to put together change packages, and monitor those through the whole system. Let me show you an example of how that works with Smart Plant Foundation and with Smart Plant for owner-operators. So delivered out of the box, we have standard types of change that most organizations incur. We provide those directly so you don't have to configure them. The user can simply go and say that they want to make an engineering change. It will create a change package. That change package can be populated with information that you've already used as your engineering design basis that the whole engineering process is provided. So those are simply drag and drop into the change package. They can be related to each other. And you can bring in photographs of the environment, the place where you're going to make this change. You can bring in schematic drawings or detailed drawings of exactly what those changes are, and you can redline them with what changes you'd like to see and what you'd like to have happen. You can bring in images of the 3D model and put all of the information together in one place. This work process is in a graphical way, and it walks through who's next and needs to approve things. As that is going through the work process, it automatically sends emails to the next person who has something to do. That email has a nice hyperlink that takes you directly into Smart Plant Foundation, where all of that information is available, and the engineer or the manager can notify the others whether he accepts the change, whether he approves the change, and that workflow engine that's in Smart Plant Foundation behind the scenes keeps track of all of that information throughout the work process. The great thing about that is that since it has all that information, you can quickly and easily review the changes that were in scope and those changes that were out of scope. So if you look at the top right here, we have a report that shows that, and you can total up those, and the project manager has a great tool that he can use to go back to review which projects have done well and which ones have been over budget and why they were over budget and things like that. I would really encourage you to come tomorrow. In the morning, there is a presentation on the integration of our enterprise applications, and it walks through a change in an offshore facility. And it's a great example of what I just showed you, but also the change management that we have within each of the tools and how that all plays together to let you have safer and more efficient designs and maintain the plant.
Now we'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've been doing. Last year we introduced the Platinum Pipe Awards. These are awards to show excellence in creation of automation using the rules-based automation API that comes with Smart 3D. It's open to everybody in the world who uses Smart 3D, and most importantly, from a business perspective, those automations can be kept proprietary. So it's not necessary to give up the ownership of that. In fact, we encourage engineering firms or owners to maintain ownership of important automations, though we still very much appreciate those that can share at least the examples of what they've done so that others can see the power and capability and opportunity of the situation. So our third place for the Platinum Pipe was Hyundai E&C and Chinergy. It was a tie because simply our judges just couldn't decide which one was better, and we both thought they were notable showings of the technology. Hyundai created a relatively straightforward automation to do spiral staircases around spherical tanks. Now, if you don't have some sort of an automation like this, then what you'd have to do is you'd have to manually map all that out, find the radiuses, define what the bends are for the steel. You could also come into problems in that if you have a different designer do it, you'll get designer creativity in little pieces and it'll start to become non-standard. What Hyundai has done with their automation is they've created a standard way of creating these spiral staircases. So they've got higher quality, and they also have higher productivity because they've automated it. Spectacular automation. The other one, which we loved just because it was so visually stunning, was from Chinergy. What Chinergy did is they started doing radiation dosage analysis with the 3D model before the plant was ever built. So they were able to, with an automation, start looking at the ways that people would travel through the plant, the ways they would do certain pieces of work, and they could then quickly calculate radiation dosage from certain planned processes or maintenance process that they would have to do in the course of operating the plant. Spectacular job from Hyundai Energy and Chinergy.
It's really outstanding. The second place winner is Grenland Group. the Grenland Group has done a really, really good job at leveraging some of the key capabilities that we have in a data-centric environment and the rules behind that, and pulling that together to allow you to see the progress. So let me show you an example of what they've done and how this works in their environment. So what they, can we roll the video, please? Thank you. So what Grenland Group has done is allow the user to go in and select an area of the piping systems or the other equipment and different things that they'd like to track. So once you have that information, because of the data that's inside the system, we keep track of when an object was created, when that component was added to the system, or when it was modified. And so that rich information that's in the database can be used to keep track of the progress in a much more efficient way than we've always done in the past by counting by drawings and ISOs and others. And so they've taken that information and they've combined it with the information from SmartPlant P&ID, where they have the totals of all of the components that need to be put in the system. And that allows them to do an S-curve and keep track of the progress throughout the whole cycle. And we think that this was just a really unique way to use the automation capabilities, the data-centric environment, and the rules of Smart 3D to make them much more efficient and keep track and keep on top of their projects so that they could provide them in on time and under budget. So we really do appreciate the work that Darren has done on this.
Now for the first place winner of the Platinum Pipe Award is Samsung Heavy Industries. We thought that this was spectacular. The judges saw this and thought it was spectacular, and they were the instant winner for the contest. What SHI has done is they've used the automation rules engine in Smart 3D, Smart Marine 3D in this case, and they've created an entire automation to do all of the accommodations detailing inside of a ship or offshore platform where people will be living and working actively. Normally, this is the sort of thing that would be done either with a lot of time and effort with a discrete CAD modeling system, or perhaps they would use a 2D architecture approach, and then that exposes them to a lot of quality risks as well as a lot of manual work later on. SHI has come up with a brilliant way of automating much of this. Let me show you how that works. As you'll see here, what they've done is they've really come up with a wonderful marriage of the classic approach, which is more of an architecture approach, and using automation technology. What they do is they create first an architectural layout of what they want to do. They link the architecture items to the symbol catalog in 3D, and then they automate the entire design. And here, this is it working in reality. Once they've created that 2D sketch, and we won't show you that here, but they've created, see there's a little ribbon bar that's been created for the designer for doing accommodations design. There's a couple of different modes that operates in, whether it's for wall panels or for things like furniture or something like that, more of a discrete item that sits on the floor. Now, then they have to define which architectural sketch or layout that they're going to use, and then they automate it. So what you're going to see next is once they've specified the Z value, so how high it is or on what deck the items are to go on from that are currently on the 2D architectural layout, the 3D automation system can now go and put in all of those wall panels. So it's doing all of that wall panel detailing, all those dimensions. We now have material takeoff on all those wall panels. We have detailed descriptions for how that's going to be constructed. And that all happened very fast compared to a manual approach that would be typical in the industry. Now they're also going to, they haven't stopped there. In addition to the wall panels, which have already been done and categorized here in Smart Marine 3D, they're also going to do a bunch of the detailed accommodations. So toilets, closets, other fixtures that would be part of the design. Same process as it did before, and then what you'll see here is Smart Marine 3D is now populating that entire system with all of those things. So they can see clash reports, they can see drawings and layouts for the entire system, and if they need to make a change, you can see that would be also pretty straightforward to make changes to that in case there were changes elsewhere in the ship design. So really a spectacular example of how the automation engine can be used to improve productivity and also improve quality and safety, because they start to get much more standard designs and they know exactly what it's going to be when it comes out. We were just so impressed with this. SHI, great job. Really spectacular work. Thank you very much. If we could have all of the contestants, I know we have SHI and Grenland Group here, if you could just stand up for a moment. Spectacular work, really creative use of the technology. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. If you have any questions for Patrick or I, we'll be hanging around at the front afterwards. But I encourage you to go to each of the technical sessions about these throughout the conference. We have a great team here that can help answer any of the questions that you have. Thank you. Have a great day.
The stars lean down to kiss you, and I lie awake and miss you. Pour me a heavy dose of atmosphere, 'cause I'll doze off safe and soundly.